We are Legion.
What is up, Comic Fam, and happy Tuesday, happy new DC Day. It's going to be a good little show. I got an awesome guest with me today to talk new DC books and new comic books this week in general and just kind of shoot the breeze with. But before we do that, check this out. Go ahead and thank Big Time Collectibles for sponsoring the channel and the monthly Legion Loot giveaway for the channel members, as well as Justin Comics. If you need anything cleaned or pressed, hit him up on IG. Use that promo code WeAreLegion and take advantage of that buy two, get one free special offer we have. Also, wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for the Augusta Book Exchange, where I get all my comics every week. Big shout out to Paul and Donna over there. All right, let's bring in my main man with pots and pans. We got Flo Dameron from the Bada Boom podcast. What is going on?
What is up, guys? Best day of the week?
Yeah, dude, it's my favorite day of the week. Definitely is. I work on Wednesday, so I have their choice, but this would be my favorite day of the week. But real quick, right off the bat, for anybody that catches this on the rewind and everything, go ahead and tell everyone about the Bada Boom podcast, or not. So we just lost Flo that quick. So I guess he had a little bit of lag. So he'll pop back in a minute. There he is. Well,
I was going to put the link in and log in, and then it out in StreamYard. That's being a noob.
Yeah, it happens. You must be on a phone.
No, I'm on my MacBook, and I had to download Chrome.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm signed in on Safari and not on Chrome.
Got you. Well, tell everyone about the Bada Boom podcast.
Yeah, so we started it about I think tomorrow will be about 2 months. Right now we're at 16 episodes. It's fun. It's just a way to connect. Troy, who I started the podcast with, we worked together. He had transferred to a different location, and it's a way for us to kind of link up, talk about all the things we used to talk about, and just have fun. It's something we had been talking about doing for a while. And I think especially when you want to do something, you get caught up in trying to make it perfect. And, it got to the point where we were just like, let's just do it. Let's record these conversations. Naturally, we'll get better at it. Eventually, we'll have a plan. Eventually, we'll have a more professional logo. Eventually, we'll do video, but let's just do it. And it's been fun. We're at a point where it's like a month ago, we're talking about it. And now it's like, now I tell people, it's like, well, I have a podcast. Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. That's pretty funny that you say that, because last night, on Monday nights, one of my buddies in the community named Max, he's got a channel, Max Von Priestley, and he talks comics amongst other things. And every Monday night, he has a show called Monday Misadventures with this lady named McKenna. And they were talking about that getting started at stuff like this. Like people have the kind of nervous about doing it because they don't feel like they're knowledgeable enough to start doing it yet or something. And the concept of just putting yourself out there and learning as you go really just kind of was the best learning experience for them. I think it worked like that for me as well. I don't know why Burke always feels the need to mention that he skips ads when he skips ads. Like, cool, man. Cool. Appreciate that. I pay for YouTube, so I don't see ads, period. Like, there's not a thing. I think I've paid for YouTube since 2015, back when it was YouTube Red, when Cobra Kai first started on as a YouTube original.
Yeah, my son, he doesn't know what YouTube with ads look like. So when we go to other people's houses and they put YouTube on and he sees an ad, he kind of gets frustrated.
What is
and
it? Yeah.
Yes, these people are poor. I'm sorry, Grayson.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, because Finn and Laura both are younger than YouTube ads have been gone out of my house as well. It's not a thing. As much as I use YouTube, it makes no sense to do it. For me, I went from 8 to 25, 38 subs in 3 years. Congratulations. Congratulations.
And you went
Right?
from having sleeves to no sleeves in 3
Yeah.
years.
I think the sleeves fell off at 1K, like permanently. Let's say hey to the chat real quick. Southern Comic Geek dropping those custom emojis in there. Appreciate you, Jason, and one of the channel members there. Wheelchair Superhero 87. Happy new comic book day to you. I hope you're having a good one. John Norris is up in the chat. What is going on, John? I still have an A-OK over here from you. I'm hoping to I'm waiting on something to come in the mail that I'm going to be opening along with that package. It'll probably be Monday when a video of opening the package from John goes up. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Dale of Suspense is up in the chat. What is going on? Throwing those Hulk and We Are Legion emojis. Love it. Appreciate that. Dope Comics. What's happening? What's happening? Hope everyone's having a good day. Just plan on hanging out for a little bit, talking with Flo, showing what I picked up today just for the sake of moving a conversation, I guess. But I'm going to start with these books real quick that I just showed you as I was bagging and boarding them. But I did pick up that 5 copies of that Black Panther #3 for somebody else, kind of like I did with those Strange Academies a couple weeks ago. Just doing the Lord's work, and people ask and I check, and if I'm able to, I grab them. And then I picked up 4 copies of this Avengers Forever, which has the first cover appearance of Captain Carter on it. She's not in the book from what I understand. It's just a cover appearance. You said you read that. Was she in the book?
Good. I mean, it's a good multiverse. I don't read much Marvel these days. I think one of the last few things I had on my pull was what was it? Iron Man. And that's the only story I've had like the balls to go to like, you know, my shop and be like, hey, can you take this off my pull? And yeah, I liked it. It was a fun little one-off. I think that and Timeless were some good stories, and I think I liked them because they felt very DC, you know, multiverse stories dealing with time, cool villains and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all I'm really reading. I have like X-Men, but that's because I was subscribed to the Hickman run, so I just carried over, and I haven't read any of that. So those are probably the only Marvel books that I like read in the last 2 months.
That Cantwell Iron Man run was really rough. So I have like this habit of continuing to try to read Marvel, and I normally shoot myself in the foot doing it. So when a series kind of starts over or something, I'll try to jump back on and hope it's in a more enjoyable place for me. I remember when they were getting ready to start that Iron Man run back at issue 1 with Alex Ross on the covers and Chris Cantwell writing it, and the whole concept of kind of going back to basic with him and everything. I think they kept using the term back to nuts and bolts with the character. I picked it up and was reading it, and it just didn't go anywhere. Like it was such a task to try to read it. It was slow. It was really slow. And I think I got like 9 issues in and was still dealing with the first story arc, and I'm like, I got to bail.
Yeah, the thing about it is that the covers always make you think like, oh, it's gonna get better. Like I was thinking like after the first 5 issues of dropping it, and I think a War Machine cover came out where it's like
with Tony working on the War Machine.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is gonna get better, right? And it didn't. It's weirdly set in space, a lot of it. So I'm like, I don't know if this is like, I didn't read Iron Man in the 70s, but this doesn't seem like it's back to basics if he's in space. Yeah, I didn't
Cosmic Iron Man and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird story. Great covers though. Great covers.
Yeah, great covers. Phenomenal covers. Alex Ross was definitely crushing it.
What's weird is like you would think Marvel would be like, you know what? Let's put this in like, let's save them for something that's like going to be really good. Let's get the scripts first before we commit Alex Ross covers to a particular series.
Yeah. Well, Alex Ross, they just hoped, like if you look, they put him on Hulk, they put him on Captain America, they put him on Iron Man. Immortal was fantastic. Captain America, I think Coates was writing, and like most people were like, yeah, you know, you're not hearing people like giving reviews about it because they're excited about each issue and all that. It just isn't getting a lot of fanfare, and Iron Man's just dead in the water, which is kind of weird because if you think about it, like Cap is done in the MCU for a while, you know, like at least front running in MCU stuff. Iron Man's done front running in MCU stuff, so they're kind of putting their stock and hyping up other stuff. I think, you know, they just
Yeah, but I mean, there's clear like a big investment in it if you're getting Alex Ross to do the covers. I think they like now that you say it kind of seems like they have them basically on the main characters. They have them on Black Panther. Presumably, when some other characters get introduced to the MCU, I'm sure they'll put him on some covers of like I don't know Kamala Khan when she gets a series or something like that. Um, yeah, I mean it's weird because you would think with the MCU connections that they would make it more like the movies and stuff like that, but that's not the case. You know, sometimes you'll have
Mikey said a while, like a good while back, that they kind of use the comic books these days as springboarding ideas to see what direction or what might work or might not for the MCU. So, like when you can tell, like when they didn't have their X-Men properties, they weren't doing anything with X-Men. When they're getting ready to buy out the X-Men, they started X-Men over with the whole House of X and Powers of 10 and all that stuff, and started pumping X-Men content again. When they didn't have the rights for Fantastic Four movies, they just tanked the series, killed them off and stuff like. Yeah, they have no respect for their own characters via the comic book readers. That's not their intentions to have bigger stuff they want to do. I mean, those movies generate a lot of money, and as a company, the company's goal is to make money. So I understand it from that standpoint. It's just unfortunate for people whose primary enjoyment of these characters is reading them and following their adventures via the comic books. But to Steve's point, real quick, those Kingdom Come books, if in a 9.8, all go for over $200 typically. What is going on? The comic vet is up in the chat. Hashtag Comic Army. And if you guys do not know, Chris just launched his 600 subscriber giveaway. He's only a few subscribers away from hitting that milestone, and the entry video is up, so you all can go and get up in that and get a chance to win some awesome books. Yeah, and Fantastic Four. Yep, sure did. Am I going to see some comics or not? Got to get back to work in 3 minutes. All right. Since we know that your LCS is not going to be able to show you comics, here's some. So there's some just to break you off real quick. So let's go to the next one. I'm sorry, Steve. Obviously, I only matter, Mark. You got it, buddy. Since I am the longest standing Burke fan member on the planet, I'll be happy to oblige. So we have Batman issue number 120. I did get the chance to read this. The artwork continues to be mind-blowing good. And this was an awesome issue with a huge twist at the end. I was talking to Brandon from the Comics Kings channel, and he said that he's not too big of a fanboy of Williamson. That seems very predictable to him. This book throws you a curveball that was not very predictable. It was a great read.
Yeah, predictable is fine with Batman. I think that's a series where it kind of needed to go back to basics a little bit. I've been liking Williamson on it. I love this Flash. I've been loving Robin. I mean, everything he's been doing in DC in the last like year and a half has kind of been like, oh my God, give him more, give him more. So I get why they've been kind of, and on top of him handling the multiverse, he has Shadow War coming up. Which
is that the Deathstroke tie-in crossover?
Yeah, Deathstroke, Robin, and Batman will all tie in together.
Have you been reading Deathstroke Inc.?
I've been. It's here. I haven't been reading it though. I kind of got it, and then I was like, you know what? When I put a couple issues together, I'll read it. But some of the covers are kind of like really wacky, so I'm like, I don't know what's going on in this book, and I don't know if I want to open it. Like, there's like one where he's like wearing like he's a unicorn or something like that. So. I've been kind of skipping out on that. Like the things I like read as soon as I leave the shop are like Batman, Detective, Nightwing. Detective has been like the best Batman book for the last year since Future State. So that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Tynan's run on Batman, though it was different than normal. That doesn't equal good. It just wasn't good. It was really poor quality storytelling all around.
Yeah,
I did do a good job of doing something different.
It's tough to write Batman because of the editorial pressure, and it was clear he was trying to do a lot, like introduce new characters. I mean, there's like 6 new like first appearances that were built up as like really hype and stuff like that during.
It almost became gimmicky though, like he was trying to just do nonstop gimmicks without substance to bolster numbers, just to like prove to himself or prove his self-worth to the company or something. I don't know, but it wasn't good. It was non-recognizable at Batman by the end of it. It was just rough. The artwork in it was, I know everyone praises Jorge Jimenez's Batman art. It It wasn't bad like at all, but it wasn't my preference on Batman. I don't know. I like the stuff that the artwork right now with Jorge Molina's artwork light years better. Yeah, it was
dope. I like the new series. What's weird is like reading the Arkham Tower story. It feels like what Tynion was going for with Fear State, with like nonstop action and kind of these things going on with the Bat family and stuff. I'm reading Detective, and I'm like, oh, this is a better version of Fear State.
Are you talking the Arkham Tower, the backup stories they did, or the current detective story, the Shadows of the Bat stuff?
Yeah, the Shadows of the Bat stuff.
Yeah, dude, I'm liking that. Like, even though it's like a lot of now what would you call it? Just the business aspect of Arkham and them trying to infiltrate it, and a lot of dialogue heavy, but it's really interesting. It's doing a good job of keeping you in the story, making you wonder what's going on itself. They did a good little first act, with the first quarter of it, with the reveal of how it's not just like a strange drug they're making the patients docile with. They're actually like laundering drugs through Arkham, and then the little reveal of Psycho Pirate and everything. You didn't even take a nap. You gonna throw it? I'm about to get hit with something. I'm trying to predict it. She threw it at the dog instead. Don't throw it at Ava. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. Man, I thought Tynion was fine, but super generic with his first gimmick, but different. I just thought the story was horrible. It was goofy. Yeah, I just didn't care for it. First appearance gimmicks. Yeah, he did a lot of those. There were some cool characters that came out of it, though. A lot of people like Punchline. A lot of people don't. A lot of people like Clown Hunter. There's a lot of characters he introduced, just used them and got rid of them, which is fine. Those comics have been like that for as long as they've been around. But the designer, everybody thought so much more was going to come out of that didn't. Arkham City, best Bat Family book right now. Arkham City, the one by Dan Waters. If you mean Bat Family, you just mean like a Bat title, because I'll completely agree with that, because Dan Waters and Danny are crushing that book. And it's just about a psychiatrist from Arkham that survived A-Day that's rounding up the villains with the help of the 10-Eyed Man, and it is a phenomenal book. What is going on, Kevin from Superpower Review? Rub whiskey on her lips. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. But you mentioned how Williamson was kind of doing a great job in crafting the multiverse. The next book up is a perfect example of my favorite of good Williamson writing and him crafting the multiverse. This is my favorite title Williamson's putting out right now. That's Justice League Incarnate. This is issue 4 of 5. So this will be the second miniseries following this team in the events of Darkseid, kind of making his way through the multiverse. And I do believe that this is going to be the build up to what eventually becomes the Death of the Justice League story in issue 75. Because they did announce Williamson will be writing that storyline.
He's doing a lot. Think about it. It's like, how does he even find the time? But he's been doing a good job. So as of right now, I can't really complain too much.
Yeah, I don't have any complaints with him. What is going on, Eman? I don't read Robin. I started reading it. It just wasn't my cup of tea, But everything that everyone does is for it.
It's fun. It's not like groundbreaking stuff, but I'm a sucker for Robin stories. So a good Damian book, I think it's cool.
Now we're past the tournament part, right? Because I did read the Superman Robin one shot from last week with Jonathan and Damian, and Damian did mention he talked about the tournament in past tense. I didn't know if he had if that storyline's over with or not yet.
Yeah, so he kind of like rounded up the team. It's kind of carrying over into the new story where he was kind of knocked into the past. So that was interesting. So we'll see where that. I think the next issue comes out soon, if I'm not mistaken. I'm always off with my books because I usually, because of work, my schedule's all over the place. I'll usually pick up my pull like 2 weeks after. So I have this huge stack of books. And I'm like, wait, did this come out last week or a month ago?
So I've been doing something different, and I just got a short box just to put my new books in before they get filed because I'm slow to file stuff. And I took one of these, just a backer board with a piece of tape on it, I just drop it in there, and everything from this week goes in the front until today on Tuesdays. I just move that backer board to the front and start putting the books in it. That way, I leave them fold up till I read them, then I tape them down and put them in the back. Trying to get organized because there's books everywhere. If you don't know, I've got a lot of stuff around me. I'm supposed to reach down and grab stuff.
Smart man. That's a good system.
I really like Tim Seeley not reading his DC right now, though. So all I know Tim Seeley is working on is like Robins and the King Shark storyline, which I read the first couple issues of the King Shark. It was campy and goofy. It wasn't bad, just not really my speed. I like King Shark, but the story was, I don't know, just one that I plan on binge reading, not trying to keep up with individually.
Yeah, and all of those, both of his stories are available early on DC Universe, DC Infinite. So I haven't been collecting those, but I've been collecting Robin, like the variant covers and stuff, but not to read them. I just read them digitally.
The sweaty variants, the
Yep.
Sweaty Richard and the Juicy Jason. And then the Dirty Damien came out, and next we have Sweaty Stephanie next, I think.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it is. That's where I was reading it ahead of time, and because it doesn't just drop the whole thing at once. I wonder if the whole thing's available now, though. But I like the idea. Again, that was another tournament book. I like the idea of them fighting to be the avatar of the red, like the new champion of the red of that part of the Parliament, because I do enjoy like the whole aspect of the Parliament in DC with Swamp Thing being the avatar of the green and the Animal Kingdom being the red. And he wanted a champion or avatar. So I thought that was pretty cool. But again, it was kind of weird, like the whole concept of adding Defacer to it, and just for the sake of having a character. Because again, King Shark probably can't carry a book on his own. You have to have somebody to bounce stuff off of, like to narrate you through, to be your guide through the story. And that was just weird. This girl that's arrested for spray painting, and she's on the Suicide Squad now for spray painting. Thought that was odd. When's the Alfred's ass cover coming out? Flo, do you have any heads up on that one?
Not yet. I think that one's probably going to be a secret variant, a one-push store variant.
So keep your eyes out for that one, Chaos. Keep your nose to the grind. You'll find it. If not, there are a lot of amazing artists in this community that I'm sure can put a photorealistic blank together for you. I'd be happy to supply the photo for it. Teamwork.
Yeah.
Speaking of Suicide Squad, issue number 12 dropped today. So I did read this one. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was a finale to the story arc that was going on. So it's like the third story arc that they finished out. And it was the total prelude to the upcoming Battle for Earth 3 storyline that we know is coming. So like you mentioned, Williamson's going to be crossing over Deathstroke, Robin, and Batman. Over here in this corner of DC, we're going to be getting the Crime Syndicate, Suicide Squad, and the Teen Titans will be having a crossover event. So next issue will be continuing in the pages of the Battle for Earth 3, which I'm stoked for. I enjoy the Crime Syndicate a lot. I enjoy the Suicide Squad a lot. And I love me some Teen Titans. So that's just going to be a lot of characters that I like a lot, all going at it.
Did you read Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad?
What era did he write it? Was that like during the Justice League versus Suicide Squad era?
No, it was right before this current one. So it's only like 11 issues. But it's an interesting read. It's actually, that is the series where Deadshot dies.
Oh no, I did not read that one.
So that book is interesting because it almost feels like he created all these new characters that are really amazing and interesting, and you're like, oh, he just pitched this as a Suicide Squad book to get it made, but it's not really like a Suicide Squad book, and it's really good. I think all 11 issues should be on the DC Infinite app. So if you haven't read it and you love Tom Taylor's writing, I think it's a good read. It's different than some of his, world building stuff he's been doing lately.
Yeah, I like that it's shorter too.
Yeah,
I wonder if they did an abrupt change on the stuff again. I mean, it just is what it is. A lot of times comics are going to try to mirror the interest of what's going on the big screen or on TV. I wonder if there's a direction shift in the books because they knew what was coming in the film properties later or around. You know what I mean? Just get people ready for what's coming.
They had to, because the following series had Peacemaker in it, you know, a character that hadn't been around in the comics, featured prominently and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it does seem a bit abrupt because, you know, Suicide Squad can carry an ongoing. So for it to be only 11, 12 issues or something like that. But the good thing about it is that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there's some real stakes in it, you know, even though he's back in Task Force Z, like, it's like when Deadshot dies, you're like, oh shit, like anyone could really die in this. So it's a good book. If you haven't read it, I think it's collected in a hardback now, and then it's available on DC Infinite too.
Okay, I said Juggernaut Day is the first event he's excited for in a while. Drop a comment, Chaos. Let me know a little bit more about that because this is the first of me hearing about Juggernaut Day.
That's Judgment Day. It's the
Judgment. I'm sorry, I was on.
It's with it's the Avengers, the Eternals, and who else? The X-Men.
Who's going to be heading that one up?
I don't know. Marvel does like 6 events every month, so I don't really know who's shepherding. And I feel like they've done this before, you know, the Avengers versus the X-Men and stuff. I think they'll probably try to tie the Eternals to the origin of the X-Men somehow to kind of like plant those seeds for the movies and stuff. But
got you. So I've tried to jump on a few events for Marvel. Let's see. I jumped on Empire because like I realized like my Marvel pool is light. I love the characters. I just miss enjoying them, you know. And every time I try to jump on and try to, it just doesn't work out. But he mentioned it earlier. I tried Empire. I read all of Empire and regretted every minute of it, except ironically an X-Men tie-in where the little plant people tried to invade Krakoa and Magneto just decimated them. It was one of the best single issues of a comic book I had read in a long time. It was really, really good. But I think the next things up that I'm picking up that'll be starting is the Ghost Rider series for sure. I'm hoping to God that it's good. I know Kale New is getting A covers, but I don't cover by. Like I hope the story is good, but it's Johnny Blaze coming back, so I'm excited about that. And then of course I'm reading Hulk. I'm hoping that it picks up. And this third issue was kind of a little bit hopeful, and like they're starting to tease the actual story now. Like, you know, it's getting there. And it seems like it's on brand for Hulk too, because it looks like we're dealing inside of his mind with the personality stuff and a potential entity that might be bigger than his own personalities and in more control of his personalities than he is, which is very on brand for a Hulk book at that point, you know. So the Starship thing, I hope it comes and goes quick and that we can just get into a really fun Hulk style story. You know, that'd be cool.
I did like King in Black. It was a fun event.
That was another one that I picked up. I enjoyed issues 1.
Yeah, and it had some cool tie-ins. I like the Immortal Hulk tie-in. That was like
I read
issue, which was really cool.
What was it? That was the silent issue, right?
Yeah, where there's like no dialogue or whatever. That was pretty cool. Yeah, like Marvel events. Like I kind of collected the Hellfire Gala because I was subscribed to some of the X titles. But yeah, it's really Marvel light. What I enjoy about, you know, this being DC Day, what I enjoy about DC is that
this is new comic book day. It's day. Like this is the day I'm off for.
With DC, like you see how like with Justice League Incarnate, it's kind of going on in the background and it's setting up like what is the big event. Sometimes with Marvel, you're like Heroes Reborn came and went, and I don't know how that affected the universe or any of those things. So it's weird the way they approach things.
Yeah, they both kind of have that too, where there's stuff going on. Like what it is, and I've mentioned it before, like these companies can only have such tight of continuity anymore, you know, because you have so many people reading, there's so many titles coming out that you can't let everything dictate events and everything else, you know, kind of like how the Batman Deathstroke Robin event is going to be happening all while this Teen Titans Suicide Squad 3 thing is happening over here. You'll see like with Nightwing, it's not consistent with the events in Teen Titans Academy and stuff like that. But there's a bigger thread that they're like trying to make sure they don't necessarily mess with. this Death of Justice League thing coming up. I don't expect to be absent of Batman in the Batman titles during this. I don't expect to be absent of Superman in the action title. I don't. They're not going to kill Superman in Justice League when he's not even on the planet. Superman is off planet on War World and has been for a while. So I think that you have to find there's like different continuity threads going, and it can get confusing for sure. But they learned their lesson with the New 52 era when they had like the tightest continuity in history, and it worked out well for a little bit, but it became way too much for the writers and the artists to be able to keep up with the workload, having to check with each other every day. Have you introduced this character yet? Because I want to not mess. You know what I mean? They're all worried about breaking the timeline.
Yeah, and with the New 52, I think part of it, what happened is that there were pieces that worked really well and then pieces that didn't work, like the Lobo design and stuff like that, where they kind of wanted to change direction. So that's like kind of where that comes from too.
Yeah. And I'm going to if I mess your name up, I'm sorry, but we got channel member Sagnik up in here. What is going on, my man? I hope you're having a good morning. Empire was poor. The X-Men tie-in was great, though. Yeah, that was, like I said, probably one of the single best issues of a comic book I had read in a long time. Magneto was a beast in it. The last Ghost Rider series was good, too, but the pandemic murdered it. Yeah, I didn't pick up the last series. I did pick up the Return of Vengeance one-shot, which I enjoyed. I mean, it wasn't nothing to write home about, but it was a good single oversized issue. King in Black was okay. It turned into something generic, in my opinion. Yeah, 100% agree. It started really, really strong. Like Noel rolling in the Celestials was cool, but then generic is a great word for it. It was not bad by any means. It was just generic. Marvel has been doing very small miniseries, not events. Yeah, and same thing with DC. They've ever since the end of Death Metal, we have not had another event. So December marked a year since Death Metal ended. And no big event, but they're working on this Williamson thing right now that's been being worked on since February of last year. So they've been doing a nice job slowly building it and doing something cool. And I'm hoping that, kind of like with Death Metal, like this event is going to have big ramifications across DC, but it doesn't necessarily affect every individual title depending on what you're reading. You can still just read through Batman or just read through Superman. But yeah. DCSU Infinite Frontier is huge, but it's treated as background. Yeah, well, and DC also did something kind of smart. They did not reset their universe or their continuity. They just reset the structure of their multiverse and talked about it now as this omniverse, where every story that ever existed, that has ever been written and ever will be written is in continuity, and it's just not necessarily on the same earth. We don't have to sit here and address this as this is in line with this or that. It all happened. They just they can pick and choose. Come on, man, you're gonna mess up the floor. They can pick and choose when a writer wants to pick it up and use it.
Yeah, I think the approach too is kind of like in line with what they're doing with the movies, where it's like, hey, Aquaman can still work even though we're rebooting Batman and doing all these things at the same time. The Omniverse kind of works for both ways. It's like, hey, if you enjoyed this, it exists, it's valid. Even if we reboot it, it doesn't mean that it never happened. So I think it's a way to kind of like please everyone and also compensate for not having a plan with the movies.
Yeah. Are you excited for the upcoming Batman movie?
I mean, for sure. I am about to request off for the 3rd, so I'm off the 3rd and the 4th, like I did with No Way Home, so I could watch it both days. It's going to be pretty crazy. I will say it's a little disappointing. The last 2 Batmans, you can't really take kids to. Like my nephew's first Batman movie, Batman was branding people, and this one is a 3-hour movie, and my son, because of the pandemic, hasn't been to a movie yet. So I'm like, I'm not taking him to a 3-hour movie. So I think that's a little bit disappointing. But I mean, for me, I'm going to be 30.
Well, if you think about it, out of the 4, 5, 6, 4, 7, 8, 9, out of the 9 live action Batman appearances, the 4 original, the 3 Bale, and the 2 Batfleck ones, only 3 of those pushing it you would want to take a kid to, and that's the Val Kilmer, George Clooney, and the Justice League version of Justice League. The rest of them, like Jack Nicholson Joker and getting shot through the mouth and thrown in vats of acid, and then Batman Returns, that was like super dark and gothic, like super dark and gothic. All the creepy clowns and everything that ran around with the Penguin.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because I don't remember when those came out, but like now they have like a little bit of like camp to them, so like I can watch that with my son at home and stuff. When you watch them, like why did they make
now
like a penguin?
I can remember my dad and my mom having a disagreement about, like, my dad has like I didn't see Batman 89 in theaters. I was 2, but Batman Returns, like that was a big deal. Like me and my brother were like we're ready to go see Batman. As soon as like Batman 89 was on VHS, we were watching it at home and stuff. But we wanted to go see it. My mom's like, it's PG-13. They're well under 13. It is way too dark. This woman's in this skin tight leather. Like it doesn't seem appropriate for these kids. And my dad's like, it's Batman. And fast forward to the intro, he's like killing people, because people complain about Batman killing people. He was slaughtering clowns left and right in Batman Returns, like strapping bombs on them and throwing them into dumpsters and stuff. Like that was his thing.
Yeah, in 15 years, branding will seem tame for Batman movies, probably.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about like kind of like the omniverse approach is because you're gonna have the Flash movie that reintroduces Michael Keaton as Batman. You'll have the Batgirl series, which will probably be a little bit more family friendly, and you can watch that at home with your kids, and then
we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's going to be an HBO Max original, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, just from the fact that it kind of used the Batgirl, the Burnside like costume, I think it's going to be a little bit lighter, but who knows? I mean, even watching the Flash teaser a little bit, it kind of like has like has the the music is a little more hopeful.
Yeah, it's Flash. It shouldn't be like too much, We'll see. I don't know. There's no telling is the thing. That's what's so exciting and upsetting, is we really, as fans, don't really have an idea of the direction of these properties that we're so familiar with anywhere else outside of what they're going to attempt to do in the movie.
Yeah, you'd like to think there's a plan, but maybe there was, but they're going through another acquisition. So the people that made the current plan could be gone in a year. Mm-hmm. So that's where it's like a little bit confusing with DC in general. You're like, hey, like you could like this direction, but in a year's time, like the people that are making the decisions now or, charting the course could be all gone. And then we're in the same spot we're in now, where we're like, oh, where do we reset the universe? Where do we keep the good parts? Where do we get rid of, the bad ones?
Yeah, I get this concept, saying the omniverse concept is like saying I'm completely devoted to my wife. We have an open relationship, but it's really no different than the same thing in the Marvel universe. You have all these different stories like the Heroes Reborn or the Avengers stuff that Jason Aaron's is writing that has like, it's really just, it can be happening anywhere at any time, and they can just bring it in whenever they want. The only difference is DC put a name to it. It's literally the same thing. They both have multiverses with infinite possibilities. That's all either Marvel and DC both are.
Yeah, Marvel's starting to embrace it a little bit more than they used to. I think they, on the movie side at least, they realize like we're getting to the point where the continuity is getting taxing. Like we have to figure out a way to make this all make sense, even when it doesn't make sense.
No, Marvel's different. It's all silly, but it's very different. Do you think about the Flash that coming up? Yeah, I don't know if you just hopped in, but we were just talking about that a minute ago. I'm hopeful. That's about all. I have no expectations whatsoever for the Flash movie, other than I just hope. I just expect it to have some cool special effects. That's about as far as my hopefulness goes into it. Because when it comes to speedsters, there's a lot you can do that's fun visually. We've seen it done. We saw it Quicksilver in the X-Men movies. We saw what they did with Barry in the Snyder cut, like especially at the end when they were like playing with him, like running on the edge of existence and racing back the clock and stuff. So there's some fun stuff you can do, So I think that'll be really cool. So, all right, next book up. I did read this one also. This one earned the thumbnail today. That's Dark Knights of Steel, number 4 of 12. This was really good. This was a this is the issue everyone's kind of been waiting for. It's backstory explanation to the House of L and to the Waynes. So that was really fun. I'm not going to go into more detail because I don't want to spoil anything that happens or doesn't happen in it. But that backstory was good. And as we mentioned, there's the Act 2, Part 1. That's Detective Comics 1051, Shadows of the Bat, with the backup story of House of Gotham. The last issue included the backup story for World's Finest, which was like probably about an 8-page preview for the upcoming Mark Waid, Dan Mora title. I know you're a Dan Mora fan as well.
Dan Mora Hive. He's so good. He's so good. I think every book he's on, he just makes better. I think that's kind of why Detective Comics got, started on a like really strong footing. Yeah, Mariko Tamaki's like a really good writer and she's been doing good things, but that art, those covers on the beginning of the run is just, they were insane. And I think he's been doing some really great work. And I think it's awesome that DC has some of these artists that are like international and really unique in what they're doing. Like you have Tim's on Superman, you have Mora on World's Finest now. I don't know what they're gonna put Jimenez on now that he's off of Batman, but that's gonna be fun. Yes Blue Cape. Look at the muscles on that Superman.
It's really clean work. Like, it is ridiculously clean line work, man.
Yeah, I hope, like, especially with the pandemic, it's hard to know, and especially being that I think he's from Costa Rica or one Latin American country where it makes it hard to kind of come to cons and stuff. But I'd love to kind of get my detective signed, and some of his Power Ranger stuff is really good. Once in Future, I don't read that book, but I'm always like looking at the covers. I'm like, man, this guy's.
Yeah, he's really good. His what was it? Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. That was really bad. Like, it was a poor example of Dan Mora's work, and I don't know how much I would blame necessarily his art for it. But the any kind of motion sequences, just following it panel to panel, you would just get lost and your eyes would twist. There's a lot of scenes though when you're dealing with like the Foot Clan where everybody is dressed the exact same way with dark clothing on, or just a lot of matching characters, so you wouldn't be able to follow the artwork smoothly. It bummed me out.
Yeah, but it's awesome to see him doing like monthly books. Artists like that could easily just get away with doing covers and stuff like that. So anytime I see him on a monthly where he's doing the interiors, I try to get it because it's going to get to the point where he's going to be like, wait, why am I spending all this time doing interiors when I could just be doing covers and making just as much, if not more money?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of cover artists, Miko Suyan has the covers for World of Krypton, and this is issue number 3 of 6. I do not recommend this book to anybody unless you're a Superman head. It's really good, but it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. The artwork is very Bruce Timm, Darwin Cookish. Like, it's like a weird mixture of the two.
Isn't it Omni on that book? That's
yeah, Oming.
Yeah, he did powers and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't mind the artwork, but it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea because it's very animated looking. But you also have to enjoy Krypton. Like, it's very political. It's very sciencey. You're not dealing with superheroes. You're dealing with these different houses, and you're watching them starting to divide because of their differences, as well as like science councils seeing early warning signs of cataclysm coming and just watching them get ignored. There's a great extinction going out with the animal life on the Krypton. It's kind of like a background story. And that's kind of playing into the point. Like, you have this extinction level event coming, and it's a background to all the importance of the squabbling of the different houses and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the art thing is more of like a contrast with the covers. As good as those covers are, DC, the editorial team should have been like, hey, the interior art is very different. So it's kind of like having that contrast, I think, shocks a lot of people when they like open it. They're like, wait, this is not the book I bought.
Yeah, it's vastly different, but I like it.
Yeah, it's dope. I love that type of art. Like, I love Chris Samney, who's on Firepower. I loved his like Mark Waid and Daredevil run. I love that type of art. It's different. It feels like
It
a comic.
reminds me of what that remind me. It's the same guy that was doing the Midnighter stuff in the backups with the Midnighter story, as well as his special that came out not long ago. I mean, it's cool. I enjoy it. But a lot of people like that more direct attempt to be more realistic, with the proportions and all that kind of stuff. But this feels really dynamic to me.
Yeah, I think they messed up with the covers. The covers are good, but
you're not going to hear me complain about a Miko cover. Not going to happen. I get what you're saying. It definitely is mismatched. Going from like ultra realism to animated style is definitely like, wow.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's weird. It would be like having that on the Harley Quinn book that's going on right now. You'd be like, what the
what just happened? And then the last one, this was one from last week, because I go on Tuesdays, so I picked up Power Ranger Universe from last week.
Dan Mora.
The cover artist.
Yeah.
This is someone named Pinoka. Unless that's a weird way of him writing Dan Mora. Don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to get that to focus.
Yeah, his signature's weird.
Yeah, it's an awesome cover. They did Red Ranger, the last one, just like it, with the energy hand holding up. It's supposed to be like a whole kind of origin story for the Phantom Ranger character. It's been kind of weird, but there are a couple other books that come out this week that are on my read list, like Chicken Devil, issue 4, Newburn, issue 3. I read Arkham City digitally. Crossover comes out, which I've been loving this second run. So there's a handful of indies coming out. What's going on, Tyler? How are you today? Interior art and mainstream comics are mostly bad. The very few mainstream comics have good art. Luckily, art's very subjective too, but there are a lot of I've noticed in lately, it seems like there's a lot of anime style influence on a lot of interior art these days, but a lot of people that are the younger people coming into art probably had a lot more experience with anime growing up than like some of my age did or something. It's a lot more mainstream these days, and it's everywhere. Let's see. Any of this week's DC releases or keys? Anything you remember top of your head? Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I do know that there's rumored to be a character die off in Justice League Incarnate. I don't know like what kind of key value that would have, though.
Honestly, they haven't been popping like the Marvel ones. Like, if you're looking for something to kind of like be a key or like to sell quick, the last few weeks in Marvel has been like insane. Like, you had the Strange Academy, you had Black Panther,
Hulk 3.
You had Hulk 3. You had that Moon Knight cover B that kind of popped to. Like, there's like 4 or 5 books in the last 2-3 weeks. That book right there.
I've got all the books that are mentioned in Arm's Reach, of course.
So those are keys, but DC, unfortunately, like
Monkey Prince #1 dropped this week, also from the writer that was doing Batman Superman series with Ivan Reis that ended toward the end of last year. Ivan Reis moved over to Detective Comics as talk about great interior artists. He's a phenomenal interior artist, but Monkey Prince got its first ongoing title today, so that would be considered a key.
I think I might have ordered the the Lunar New Year covered, like the red foil one. I think they might have one at my shop for me. I think that was the only one that I got, because I think last year when I bought it, like his first appearance was like a $10 book. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that was that. Was it the Asian Heritage Month?
Yes, that one. I think I might have like 2 copies of that, and
nice.
I have. I think it was the Cassandra Cain. No, yeah, Cassandra Cain. Our Germ cover. I think I got like 2 of those.
Nice. So I did just check the trusty old key collector app, who definitely errs on the side of caution. If there's a chance that it's a key, it's going to be listed. He'd rather have a few misses for being wrong than a few misses for not including it. He doesn't have anything listed on there for this week other than that Monkey Prince. Jing Lung Yang and Bernard Chang on Monkey Prince. Haven't read it yet, but the art looks solid. Yeah, the art looks solid. Another example of American art with heavy Asian influences. Granted, the artists are definitely Asian, but I flipped through it at the LCS. It has a very, very wicked ending to it, like a total crazy twist ending to it. So I'm going to read it digitally. If it's something that I enjoy, I'm going to go back and pick up a copy. Female Goblin first appearance is this week, I guess, in ASM Beyond. Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man issue this week is going to be first cover appearance of that character and first appearance in the comic as the Goblin Queen or Queen Goblin. But the character has previously appeared who became the Queen Goblin already. Let's see. I think that's pretty much the only big one. I've got a couple of copies of that one in my box to pick up later. Geiger is getting that 80-page giant this week. That one I'm excited about as well.
Are you excited about Flashpoint? Them going back to that?
Not necessarily, because I looked at the creative team on it. So we have Jeff Johns who did Flashpoint, but it's also has like Thompson and Adams on it as well, the people writing Teen Titans Academy and the current Flash. So it looks like Johns is going to script something out and just hand it to somebody else. And I don't know, like we know that Thomas Wayne is an active member in the Justice League Incarnate, that he's got stuff going on in the main universe right now. So I don't see the need for it for the greater continuity of DC. But I'm going to read it. I'm definitely going to read it.
What's strange is that Adam seems to be on all the books where it's like, hey, redeem this character that was, destroyed in a Tom King book. Because you have Wally and now you have Thomas. And I think it's just a way to kind of, again, bring that character back to where it was in Flashpoint versus like what it became.
Well, he's rocking and rolling right now. Like him and President Superman are running around trying to stop Darkseid from ripping the multiverse into pieces.
Yeah, he's good in that, but I think it'd be cool to kind of reset it on a grander scale where like everyone knows, like, hey, like, because what he became in Batman, that's like obviously like a book everyone was reading, and what's going on in Justice League Incarnate, it's something of a background. It's important to the multiverse, but it's not like, I could go get all 5 issues like right now at my shop if I wanted to.
Yeah, I heavily recommend doing that too. It's really good.
I'm waiting for all of that multiverse stuff to be all collected and stuff like that. I think that.
Yeah, I'm assuming since they're doing like they did Infinite Frontier in technically 7 issues, because there was an issue 0 that was really just wasn't limited to just that story. It was that issue 0 is a standard issue 0 where it's a series of 4 or 5 page shorts, just letting you know where everybody in continuity is kind of hanging out currently, but it was 6 issues with a Secret Files and Origin special as well, and then you had the issue 0, and now we have 5 issues for the second story. So they'll probably do it in 2 trades, one for each one. But we'll see. But we're about to be rolling up on that hour mark, and I'm about to go give a Hulk Hogan leg drop to these kids and put them down for a nap.
Oh, wow. You've been trying for a good hour.
Yeah.
I'm lucky my girl's putting my son to sleep right now, so he's out.
Yeah, these kids are giving my wife the no on it, so about to go change their mind. They don't know that yet, but it's about to happen. But I appreciate everybody hopping in the chat. One more time, tell everybody where they can find you and your podcast.
Yeah, you can find me at Flo Dameron on Instagram, and also the podcast at Bada Boom Podcast. Spelled out exactly as I said it. It's available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Music. Hopefully soon we'll get on Amazon. Not that I know anyone that uses Amazon for podcasts, but hey, you want to cover all your bases. So check us out.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you hopping on today. This has been a good time. And
thank you for having me, bro.
I'll have a video come out tomorrow, probably going through some mail. I got a lot of mail to go through. I'm going to have a epic update on my 2022 goals that comes out probably on Monday. But in between then, Friday is always the community hangout in the morning. And every Sunday night at 9 p.m., Out Weeks In, the spoiler field look back at This Week in Comics and so much more. And until the next time, I'm Mark, but we are Legion.